Hi guys, I thought you might be interested to see this. Now, some time ago I made a video featuring this IMSAI 8080 replica that I built. It's actually a IMSAI 8080 ESP, and you can see it's just the front panel, not the whole of an IMSAI 8080 with the S100 bus. This is using an ESP32 microprocessor, and effectively it's emulating, in this case, a Z80 machine running CP/M using the Z80 pack written by Udo Munk, but with some customization from Dave McNaughton at the High Nibble, which is where I got the kit from. Anyway, I'm not going to go into too much detail. I'll give you a quick demo on this. So if we just power it down, and then before we do, let me show you on the back. So we're connecting in via this RS232, and you can see there's the ESP32. Well, we're going to initially connect in via the RS232, and then I'll show you something else. So if we just power this on, and we can see we've got the LEDs up there, and we'll just flick it to run. Now this has been configured so that it'll automatically boot into CP/M. So if you're working on a project right now and you need a high quality PCB starting at just $5 or some 3D printing even, you might want to check out our sponsor PCBWay. Okay, so I'm screen capturing from my Mac. So we're effectively using the Mac as a terminal, not a lot more than that, just the terminal. I'm going to start with the command line, and we'll make this just a bit bigger so you can see what's going on a little more easily. Okay, so we're going to connect via our RS232 connections. I'm just going to kill that connection off first in case it was left active from the last time I used it, and then we'll just connect using this screen utility. I mean, you could use anything you wanted to, any terminal emulation software within reason, as long as it supports VT100 emulation. So there you go, so we're now connected. So if we just run survey, you recall I said it was a SysGen 64 image. There you go, you can see it is. Okay, and from here I can access all the drives. So there's drive A, B, C, D, so it's got 4 floppy drives configured. It's also got drive I, which is effectively a hard drive image in this case, and I use that as my dumping ground for anything that I'm working on at the time or anything that I use regularly. Okay, so from here you could run up basic. No problem. You could run up word style, do whatever you want to do, and that's all great. And as a CP/M machine, that's absolutely perfect. There's really nothing more that you need. Anyway, we'll come out of here, so we'll just shut the machine down by issuing a buy. And you can't see the machine, but I can tell you that all the lights have gone off and it's left it effectively in a standby state. So I'm done with this terminal emulator now. We'll come out of there. Now you'll recall that I said that it was Wi-Fi connected, and the IMSAI 8080 ESP has got a web server built into the firmware, if you like, and effectively what I'm able to do is connect using a web browser. In this case I'm using Google Chrome to that IMSAI 8080 web server. So let's just put this up full screen. Now you can see that it's presenting itself much like any other GUI desktop, and I've got various icons over here on the left hand side. I'm not going to show you all of them, but let's start with TTY. So TTY is effectively a web terminal. First thing we need to do is start it back up. So if I use the CPA, which is the control panel, and basically gives me a few of the switches from the front panel. I can then click run, and you can see it started it up. There you go, and we've got control of the terminal. So everything that we could do from the RS-232 connected terminal, we can do through the WebTTY terminal. Basically the same. Okay, let's leave that over there. So let's just take it out full screen for a second, and let me show you something here. So we've got a printer. If I go back and I press Control P and then issue a DIR, you can see it's now output that directory listing to the printer. And if I wanted to print it for real, I could click the print button, select my printer and dump it out, or I could save it to a PDF or whatever. And when I'm done with that, I can just clear it down. And then Control P again will cancel that. So I've issued a Control P again. If I now get another directory listing, you see it's no longer sending it out to the printer. So that's a really cool feature. Let's just go back into full screen again. Okay, so you can see here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 floppy drives. Let's assume these are representing 8-inch floppy drives, so 2 dual 8-inch drives. In drive A, I've got my copy of CPM 2.2, 64K sysgen image of that. In drive B, I've got a copy of Microsoft Basic, a blank disk in, well, might not be blank, but it says it's blank in drive C, and in drive D I've got some basic code that I'm working on. And drive I is basically the hard drive. We've already looked at all of this, of course, through the RS-232 connected terminal. None of that's really different. The only difference is if I want to change a disk, so let's say I no longer want that blank disk, I can eject that, and then if I wanted to mount up, I don't know, let's say comms, I can select that disk and mount it on that drive. So we can swap it back again. Okay, let's put our blank disk back in there. Okay, and you've got the option to upload disks and download them. If you want to upload them, you literally just drag them from your file manager onto this window, and that'll upload the disk for you. If you want to download one, you literally just drag it onto the download icon there, and that'll download it to your normal download folder. We've got some manuals, and you can upload more. So I'll just open the PDFs for you, so you can refer to those quite easily. Okay, I'll get rid of those tabs, don't need those. Okay, and we've got our syscontrol system. So in here you can see it's telling you about the disks that you've got mapped. It's telling you which version of the web front end, which ports you've got connected. You'll see one of these is modem, and so on and so forth, and there's plenty you can do with that. And it's also telling me that the boot code ROM is going to be MPU-A-ROM.hex, which means that TTY will be the supported terminal emulation, or supported terminal mode I should say, as opposed to CRT, which you can see here, which will need the VIO ROM set. Well, I generally use TTY, I find it's more flexible, but you know, your requirements might be different. So that's about it for that. On the previous video that I made, I didn't go into too much detail on all of the features, so I thought I'd use this as an opportunity just to show you a few more things that you can do with it. So this has got support for Kremenko Dazzler, which is effectively a video card that could be connected to an IMSAI 8080 or theoretically any S100 bus based machine, so it could be a Kremenko Z1 or whatever. The principle's the same. So if we just open that window, this is going to represent the display or the monitor output, if you like, of the connected Dazzler card. So if I go to drive I, let's just have a look at the com files we've got. So we've got a few demos here. So if we run Kscope, you can see that that's now outputting that via the Dazzler, and I can put that up full screen actually. There you go. Okay, bearing in mind, of course, you know, this is mid-1970s technology, so, you know, but it's got a Z80 in it, so in theory it's going to be comparable in terms of its ability to, you know, something like a ZX Spectrum 48K or something like that ilk. So if we hit escape to come back out of there, then we should be able to break out the application. There you go. Let's try one more. G demo. Not sure what that one is. Oh, here you go. There you go. There you go. Yeah. Told you, Spectrum graphics. Looks a bit like Manic Miner. Alright, we'll quit out of there. And we should be able to do Control C. No, it's not letting us do a Control C. So what we can do then to break out of the program is pull up our CPA as our front panel and just click reset. And you can see that that's effectively done a soft boot and taken us back to the command prompt, so back to the drive prompt. Okay, had to make a little change to get the webcam working. So let me just show you here actually. If we pull up a new tab and go to Chrome, go on / flags. Now I've got a flag set here. Now this will only work in Chrome or Chromium, not managed to get it working in any other browser, but hey, you could give it a go. Basically, the point of the exercise is to allow the webcam streaming for non-secured targets, non-secured hosts. So here, because the IMSAI 8080 ESP traffic uses HTTP as opposed to HTTPS, we need to allow this flag insecure origins treated as secure and put in the URL for it. So in this case, http://imsai8080.local, could be an IP address, whatever, and you need to enable that, and then make sure that you save the settings and restart the browser. Come out of there. Once you've done that, once you've restarted your browser if you need to, and we should be good to go. And you can see here it's actually giving you a warning you are using an unsupported command line flag, blah 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 blah. So don't add the planet in, only do it for this one machine. And bear in mind that, you know, it's viewed as a security issue, but obviously if you're doing it, you know what you're doing, then all should be good. So we'll get rid of that warning. If we now, let's just get our terminal window back up. Okay, so we'll now open our Cyclops camera again, click connect. Yeah, I can now see that the webcam status lights come on, and in fact there you go. Very unusual appearance for me, but you can see my webcam's working, and we should, in theory, let me toggle the mode as well, but maybe it won't let me do that until I'm actually streaming. So let's go to Drive I, and we'll just get our Dazzler window open because we're going to need that. And then if we get up a directory for anything starting with cc, start.com. Okay, so we've got a few applications here that will allow us to connect the Cyclops or the webcam to the IMSAI 8080 and output the video stream on the Dazzler. Now, bearing in mind this is 1970s technology effectively, even though it's taking the feed from a modern camera, it's still processing it on a machine from, you know, in the 70s running a CP/M operating system, so don't expect it to be too impressive. The fact that it works at all is a bit of a Brucey bonus. Okay, here we go. And this is the kind of video that you'll expect from it. So at the moment, I don't know if you can see my preview window, but I'm getting just over 1 frame a second. Now I can toggle it so the preview is actually in monochrome in the same way as the output. Now what I can do is run a different application here. I just get up cc.com and run cc3 fs2. Now this will run at a slightly higher refresh rate, frame rate, but we'll see whether it's any better. Okay. Now this is the problem. So you're benefiting from the refresh rate, but it's not really managing to redraw the frames very well. So that's probably not great. Probably better off compromising with the other one. CC-3B. Now you can see it's very grainy, but the lighting in this room isn't brilliant. The best thing you can do is kind of squint. You might get on my face, but there you go. So that's the Kromenko, Dazzler and Cyclops. Good fun to play with. Alright, we'll come out of there, disconnect that. Okay, good. Okay, and there's some other stuff, slightly newer features that David introduced, well, more recently. I can't be more specific than that, but there's a joystick connection. Now, I've not tried this, but I believe it'll, if you've got a USB joystick connected, then it should pick it up. I don't think I've got any software to actually demonstrate that, so we'll leave that for now. And there's also a paper tape reader. So with this, Dave's got some good videos on it. I think Udo Munk may have some videos on it as well. But effectively, it will allow you to save programs out onto paper tape and then read them back in, which is pretty cool. But I've not actually tried it myself yet. What I really want to show you is this. So I mentioned, I think, that there's a Wi-Fi modem built in to this IMSAI 8080 ESP, and that's been configured. So if I run Kermit, which is basically a terminal emulation package, quite old now, but I'm going to set my port to be UC1, which effectively maps to that Wi-Fi modem's COM port. Now it's going to see this Wi-Fi modem just like any other AT compatible, Hayes compatible modem. So if I, having connected to it, just issue an AT, you can see we get an OK back. So if I ATD, now it's going to dial, it's going to take a host name and resolve that, and then try and establish a Telnet connection to it on whatever port I specify. So in this case, I'm going to go to amstrad.simulant.uk on port 464. Okay, I'll just log in on this one. Okay, so this is just an online BBS. Back in the day, back in the 70s, 80s, early 90s possibly, BBSs would have been connected to over a phone line. This is sort of simulating that, but it's actually connecting to it using a TCP connection. So there you go. I'm not going to go into too much detail here. This is a bulletin board. You know, you've got chat and email and whatever. Let's just go into email, and if I wanted to send an email, I can do N for send netmail, which I'll know, put in the address I want to send it to. send, and that's it. Email sent. Okay. So there you go. That's how you could send email back in the late 70s, I guess. Maybe. Certainly in the 80s you could have done. Alright, so we're going to log off there. And we should be done. Now, to get out of Kermit, it's control backslash and then C. And that gives me my command prompt back, and then I can quit out of there. Okay, we're back to where we were. Okay, that's pretty much all I wanted to show you for the IMSAI 8080 ESP. It's great. Obviously you'd have to order the kit, build the kit, but the software, the Z80 pack, and also a lot of the customization that Dave McNaughton's been working on to produce this, so the desktop that you can see here has now been retrofitted back into the Z80 pack, but it's going to be subtly different when you're running it on another machine. So whether it's a Linux machine, a Pi or something like that. This time we're going to use Kermit again, and we're going to set our port to UC1. I'm going to issue a connect. Okay, we'll just make sure it is talking to the Wi-Fi modem. That looks fine. So I'm going to issue an ATD, and then we're going to give it the IP address of one of my hosts. That's a Linux host, and specify the port 6400. Okay, there you go. Now what that's basically done is that's connected to a TCP server, TCP listener port, if you like, running on a Linux machine, in this case a Raspberry Pi, and I have made a video about this previously, so I'm not going to go on too much about it, but effectively it's using a Lynx web browser to allow me to connect this Telnet session, but effectively allow me to connect an IMSAI 8080 out onto the internet, albeit with text-only web browsing. But there you go, you can see that's working. This is using a website called FrogFind, so it's basically stripping out anything other than the text. So let's just see if I can actually. Yeah, it doesn't work so well through that terminal emulation for some reason. It seems to work better through the RS-232 terminal emulation. Let's just try it a different way. So if I ATD 129.168.10.182, but this time I'll just telnet onto it on port 23 rather than connecting to the other listener, and then I'll have to log in. So there's a Raspberry Pi. Okay, and then I'll just run the Lynx browser. Okay, and then we'll do a go and open frogfind.com. There we go. Yeah, still not great, that. Interesting. Okay, so just for comparison, let me just quit out of there. I'll come out of Kermit, and then I'm going to close the browser. I'm going to go back in with the RS-232 session. Let's make the window a bit bigger. Let's reset my connection. Okay, let's try it again. Okay, so that's responding. We'll try the TCP server again on 46400. Yeah, and now it's letting me come down and select the links. So this comes back to what I was saying, the terminal emulation. Did I mention it? I'm not sure, it depends what you edit the video you get to see, but anyway, there are some quirks, let's put it that way, with the WebTTY VT100 terminal emulation. For most of what you're ever going to want to do, it's absolutely fine, but there are a few times when it doesn't quite work the way it should. So that's why I personally prefer using the RS-232 connection with a terminal emulator of my choice. But you know, each their own. I think it's just worth bearing in mind. But you can see, there you go, IMSAI 8080 happily browsing the internet, albeit text-only web browsing, but it does work. So we should be able to quit out of there. Yeah, no problem. And Control/C and quit. And we're out. Okay, all good. I'll tell you what, whilst we're here, I'll show you one more thing. So, VT100 graphics, are you ready for this? Okay, so before we had sprites, we still had ASCII characters. And let's see, twilight.vt. And what you could do is stuff like this. Except that didn't work very well, did it? Let's try another one. It's always the way. Any other time, see, it's sent it some random control characters here. So we're going to have to reset the terminal. So this is another problem. If the terminal emulator doesn't truly support VT100, you get problems like this. So what I'll do this time is I'll just kill on screen to release the port. This time what I'll do is I'll connect to it using Kermit. Should be one I prepared earlier. Somewhere. There you go. Right. Okay. So we need to start the IMSAI 8080 up. There we go. All my carriage returns there as well. Okay. And let's just make that window a bit bigger. Okay, so we've got to drive I. We'll run Kermit again. Oh no, actually, not doing Kermit, are we? We're doing VTs. Okay, we'll type twilight.vt. That's more like it. So sometimes old school is best, you know. Kermit seems to work well, and you know, it's free, so you can download it. You may need a compiler. I can't remember. You probably will, but you should be able to find it easily enough. So I've got Kermit in this instance installed on the Mac. And this is MacOS version, I can't remember, 12.4 Monterey. But I've also got it running on 32-bit Buster, Raspberry OS, Raspberry Pi OS on the Raspberry Pi, and it works absolutely fine on there as well. And obviously Kermit is the terminal emulation software that we've been running actually on the IMSAI 8080 to connect out. Okay, so there you go. So that works much better. Let's have a look at Globe. If that works, I'll be impressed. Oh, it does. There you go. Okay, so there you go. So there's just a few of the things that you can do with an IMSAI 8080 ESP, or in more general terms, things that you can do using the Z80 pack, because you don't actually need to run it on an IMSAI 8080 ESP. You can compile it and run it on quite a range of different platforms. You can run it on Windows, you can run it on Linux, Mac OS X, and I've had it running on all of them, I think. But it'll run absolutely fine, even on a Raspberry Pi. So that's maybe another follow-up video to show you that working, because the way that you install it, so obviously you have to download it, compile it, install it. There may be some tweaks to the source code that you'll need to make depending on how you want to implement it. So it's too big a subject to cover off on this video. I think this video is probably long enough. But what I wanted to do was just bring you up to date on some of the extra features. Now, we haven't even really gone into the punch tape properly or the joystick support, but whatever. I can't do it all in one go. Anyway, hopefully that was of some interest to you, and I will catch you on the next one. Cheers for now, guys.